In the very long history of video games, there have been tons of video game companies, from the 1970s all the way to the 2020s. Today, we're going to celebrate in what is, in my opinion, the 10 greatest video game companies of all time. A top 10 list. Just very briefly before we begin, I just want to state that I will be including third-party video game companies as well. So without further ado, and I hate these long intros, so let's get started. Number 10, Atari. I think Atari deserves its flowers, but I'm placing it at number 10 because, in my humble opinion, even though I love Atari, a lot of us love Atari, it's mostly the memories. When I look back on the legacy of Atari, it's great, but it's also mostly shitty. It's a company that has a story of failure. Just failure after failure after failure. There have been so many times where they had so many chances to redeem themselves as a company, and they failed. Just over and over again. Their crowning jewel has always been the 2600, which was originally known as the VCS, we all know that, video computer system. The other systems, well, like the 7800 and the Atari Jaguar, I love. But looking at the company, I don't think it deserves to go higher than number 10 on this list. Just too many times where they could have made the right and better decisions to better their company and to make them a name that would be more memorable to a wider audience today in gaming. But that didn't happen, so in my opinion, we're mostly left with this nostalgic failure of a game company, which was Atari. Anyway, let's move on. Number 9, id Software. id Software was responsible for games like Commander Keen, Doom, Quake, Wolfenstein, Catacombs 3D. These games were pretty great at the time. The graphics were mesmerizing, lots of imagination, very fun, very different. They kind of invented and polished the 3D realms of graphics and what you could do with them, how you can use them. I'm not a fan of first-person shooters, so I'm not a fan of what was spawned out of id Software, because they were really the granddaddies of all this stuff that appeared later on, like Halo, Call of Duty. But to me, the old Quake games and stuff like that are really what made them special. And those games had lots of color, in my opinion, better looking graphics, better environments, better names. They had this cool edge and a cool 90s factor to them, which made them stand out. Plus, their story as a game company with the rivalry of the people that created the games and id Software is very memorable. Video game folklore and kind of a fun story with all the arguments that happened within the company. It's been talked about quite a bit. So id Software gets the spot for number 9. Number 8, Konami. Konami was really good at making games. All the way up to, I guess, to today. They were good at making good NES and Super Nintendo games, for the most part. After the Super Nintendo era, I think their games got less good, but they still came out with a lot of good games, though. So, I'm not going to list 10 million games, but I'll just throw out some names of games that Konami made over the years that gave them this reputation of being one of the really good game companies out there. Alright, for the NES and stuff, we got Air Yi Kung Fu, which was also an arcade game. Okay, we got Circus Charlie, Castlevania, right? The Castlevania games. Double Dribble for the NES. Life Force, Salamander. This awesome game known as Konami YY World, which brought all their characters in there, including the character known as Konami Man, that 5% of you know who that is. Blades of Steel for the NES, which is a very good hockey game. Probably one of the best NES hockey games. Gyruss. They were really good at making shooter games. The Ninja Turtle games they made for the NES, like the Tournament Fighter and stuff. Contra. Tiny Toon games for the NES and the Super Nintendo. Then we have the Super Nintendo, we have Gradius 3, Super Castlevania 4, Mystical Ninja, the Goemon games, Axelay, Parodius, Batman Returns, Sunset Riders, Animaniacs, Sparkster the Rocket Knight, one of the all-time great underrated video game mascots. Then we have the N64. We also have Deadly Arts, which I loved personally. We also have Quest 64, which they worked on. Blades of Steel 99. The exclusive Japanese game Raguga Kids, very good game. Mystical Ninja 64, Hybrid Heaven, etc., etc. So, Konami gets number 8 on the top 10 list of the greatest video game companies. Number 7, Midway. I created an entire documentary about this on my YouTube channel known as The Golden Age of Midway from 1992 to the year 2000. They lasted a lot longer than that in the 80s and after the 2000s, but so Midway was this amazing game company, especially in the 1990s. I'll just list off a bunch of stuff they made. They came out with the smash hit arcade game known as Narc, where you murder drug dealers. They made NBA Jam, Gauntlet Legends, Rush 2049, Mace The Dark Age, Cruisin' Exotica, War Gods, Top Gear Rally, Ready to Rumble Boxing, NFL Blitz, Arctic Thunder, Hydro Thunder, the Mortal Kombat games. The list just goes on and on. The Rampage games. Midway was legendary, and they were one of the greatest game companies we've ever seen. So, to me, their games were very fun, very polished, lots of color. They're games that a general audience can get into, while a hardcore gamer can also enjoy them as well. So they really fit the bill for everybody. So that's why I'm giving Midway number 7, because they really conquered the arcade scene. Number 6, SNK. Well, anyone who's played retro video games knows this one's pretty self-explanatory. I could have put SNK even higher than number 6, but it's pretty damn high. Their games are really mostly the reason why they're on this list. Their games were excellent, especially in the 1990s, but they continued to make great games in the 2000s and 2010s as well. They had the King of Fighters games, the Samurai Showdown games. They had these Monster Fighter games and stuff like that. They had the SNK arcade machines. You had the SNK console. You had the Fatal Fury games, which were amazing. So many games to list. I mean, the list just goes like endless. They had a style, and when you played a game by SNK, you knew it was made by them. Very polished. A lot of their games are mostly the same, but it's that incredible 90s charm to all of them. Just pure imagination, pure vibrant colors, lots of extreme fun. They're the company that persevered with their style of gaming, and they have this very dedicated fan base that I'm happy to be proud of. They also gave us the incredible Metal Slug games. Those games were so much fun, weren't they? Yeah, you know, they failed at making their own home console, but their games are really what solidify them and cement them into the Hall of Legends of gaming, especially for game companies. So definitely SNK gets number 6. Number 5, Namco. Well, all I have to say is one word, Pac-Man. But no, they also have tons of other games. Namco, other than Midway, was really the greatest game company that created arcade games. The endless amounts of classics that Namco was responsible for that so many people have played. Galaga, Galaxian, Pole Position, Ms. Pac-Man, Dig Dug, the Pac-Man World games. They also made the Soul Calibur games. Namco was incredible. They came out with so many memorable games. Soul Edge for the PS1. It just goes on and on and on. Rolling Thunder, and probably 300 other arcade games and regular video games that I can't remember. But Namco were the best. They were the guys that knew how to make the best, most fun arcade games. When I think of the Namco games of the past, the one word I think of is fun. Compatibility, silly, yet engaging, something tangible that people can recognize, that people remember, that gave people all these happy memories of video games. They gave us Pac-Man. They gave us so much joy. Namco deserves all the flowers that they get, and they belong at number 5 on my list of the top 10 greatest game companies. Number 5 goes to Namco. Number 4, Rare. Yes, Rare was a phenomenal game company. We've all talked about their legacy a million times over. So anyone who's a gamer watching this video knows what all their games are and probably grew up playing them. But for the sake of consistency and for history, to convince any of you out there who doubt that Rare belongs at number 4? Let's just list the classics then. Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Donkey Kong Country Trilogy for the Super Nintendo, Diddy Kong Racing, Mickey's Speedway USA, Donkey Kong 64, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Killer Instinct 2, Star Fox Adventures, Jet Force Gemini. This company was unstoppable and gave us these extremely memorable animal characters that were like these big mascots, especially during the late 90s. They made great racing games, fighting games, adventure games. They had the greatest logo in all of gaming history. It was just a phenomenal time to play video games and to relish in all the art that they created, the colors in their games, the imagination. That's the biggest thing that comes to mind when I think of Rare back in the day. Imagination. They are number 1 in terms of imagination, but the imagination gets better as we go. So I'm going to put Rare at number 4. They deserve it. Number 3, Capcom. We're all big Capcom fans. I mean, I am. Maybe not everyone is, but come on, you got the Mega Man games, right? You have the Mickey games for the Super Nintendo that Capcom created. Capcom gave us Marvel vs. Capcom, all those games. There's so many amazing Mega Man games that came out of Capcom. Lots of fighting games. Street Fighter came from Capcom. Capcom are phenomenal. Capcom are a contender for the greatest third-party video game company of all time. They just keep going and going with so much creativity, and what I always admired about Capcom's games is the quality control in their games. Their games are packed to the brim with consistency in good quality games, great quality games. Capcom also gave us Power Stone 1 and 2. Capcom also gave us the Resident Evil games, the Monster Hunter games, Devil May Cry, the Ace Attorney games. This was the company. They are the kings of the arcade. Well, one of the kings. I already mentioned Midway, Rare, Namco. Capcom were phenomenal during the NES era and the Super Nintendo era. Continuing on in the PS1 era, Capcom were amazing. Capcom were one of the greatest game companies for the Sega Dreamcast. Capcom also continued to make amazing games during the PS2 era, right? Capcom were always there with that same classic logo. Their seal of quality gave us one of the greatest video game mascots of all time, Mega Man. Capcom deserve all their flowers and then some. So that's why Capcom deserves to be at number 3. Number 2, Sega. There's probably lots of people out there that doubt this position, but my biggest argument for Sega is that they were a very alluring company. They left an imprint. Even if you weren't the biggest fan of their company, what they left behind, the legacy, the aura of what they were, how they were inspiring, how they pushed the bar. Well, first of all, they gave us the greatest game character ever, Sonic the Hedgehog, right? All those Sonic games and the cartoons and everything. Well, the greatest game character ever is actually Crash Bandicoot, not Sonic the Hedgehog, but regardless. Sonic was a superstar, so they gave us all the Sonic games. Plus, their game consoles were amazing. Sega Saturn, Game Gear, Dreamcast, Genesis, even the Master System. They gave us the pretty cool to decent Alex Kidd games, Echo the Dolphin, Kid Chameleon, Comic Zone, Rise Star, the Phantasy Star games, lots of those games, Virtua Fighter, Burning Rangers, Nights into Dreams. Just everything about this company, all the arcade games they made. Sega was number 2 to Nintendo, and with great reason. The Sega Genesis is one of the best game consoles ever. Sega was a juggernaut, and they left an imprint. They were memorable. People loved that logo. People loved Sonic. People loved Sega. They were a big deal. And even though they may not have made as good games as some of the other companies I listed, they still had all this stuff, though, that made them memorable to people. Sega belongs on this list because of video game history, because of their story, because of how, even if you weren't a fan of Sega, they made you interested in them because they just kept showing up and they made themselves seem important, even when they were failing. Sega were the underdogs of gaming, and they fought to their very dying breath with the incredible, one of the greatest game systems ever made, the Sega Dreamcast. That's their final mark in gaming. So anyway, yeah, Sega is number 2. So before we get to number 1, let's just read through the list again. This is the top 10 greatest video game companies ever. Number 10, Atari. Number 9, id Software. Number 8, Konami. Number 7, Midway. Number 6, SNK. Number 5, Namco. Number 4, Rare. Number 3, Capcom. Number 2, Sega. And now, the number 1 greatest video game company of all time. Microsoft. Nah, I'm just kidding. Fuck that shit. It's Nintendo. They are the greatest game company of all time. Despite the modern controversy going on with the Switch 2 and all the bad blood they created with their fan base over the years, we have to remember the good times Nintendo gave gamers. The NES, the Super Nintendo, the Game Boy Pocket, the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance SP, the original Nintendo DS, the Nintendo GameCube, the Switch. Nintendo gave a lot of people so many happy video game memories. The Mario games, the Kirby games, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, etc. Star Fox. Their game consoles, especially their old ones, the ones from the 90s and the early 2000s, were incredible. And the 80s, the 1980s. Nintendo are the kings of gaming. Even though they treat their fans like cattle and they disrespect their fan base, you still have to admire what they created, though. The games they made, the consoles they made, at least the old ones. There was so much character in them, and they gave us tremendous amount of enjoyment in gaming. There's people that don't even fucking play any video games, but they know what Nintendo is. They know what Mario is. The legacy they built. So, number 1, the spot goes to Nintendo. Despite the hiccups of the company, it's like the company Sega, You have to give them their flowers. You have to admit they did it. They are the champions. They are the champions of gaming. So, there you have it. The top 10 greatest game companies of all time. What may leave a lot of you scratching your heads is, where the hell is Sony? The PlayStation. Why isn't that listed here in the top 10 of gaming? Well, I love the original PlayStation. I loved the PS2. The PS3 is a decent console, but I think PlayStation, it's time to admit the truth about PlayStation, and that is that most of the PlayStation games are made by other companies. Naughty Dog, Insomniac Games, Capcom, etc. Tons of games for the PlayStation consoles were really made by other companies and not Sony. Sony made great systems originally, and they did have their own publishing company. They did make their own exclusive games for their systems over the years. They did, and they were good games. Some of them were great, so it's not like they didn't make their own games, but most of the great games for the consoles were really made by these other companies I already listed: Namco, Capcom, SNK, etc. And Sony doesn't really, I don't think, in my opinion, they're not like Nintendo and Sega, where I'm not feeling it. It's not grabbing me, okay? But the PS1 and the PS2 were phenomenal. I'm never going to disagree with that. I'll say that till I'm in the ground. I loved the PS1 and the PS2. I love Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon, the other PS1 mascots. Right? But the rest of the legacy of the PlayStation, once the PS4 happened, and late the PS3 era, it's just not. Sony isn't really a game company. They became that, but they do other things, They own a movie studio. They freaking make boom boxes and CD players and stuff like that. They're not like Sega and Nintendo, Like, let's be fucking real. They're not like Atari, okay? Then also there's Xbox, right? Look, I know a lot of you younger gamers, you only grew up with Xbox and you were obsessed with Halo and that was your life. And it's like, you guys gotta know your video game history. There's lots of video game history that you guys don't know about. And you guys worship Xbox. Like you think they're the greatest ever and they're the goats of gaming. And no. The Xbox consoles, they have good games. And I will admit that, okay? The original Xbox was good. So was the 360 was a decent system, okay? After that, not so much. They're a very greedy company, and so is Nintendo. But Microsoft is also like Sony. They do lots of things. They make computers, computers, okay? Microsoft and Xbox don't deserve to be listed here just because you grew up constantly playing the Xbox. That's not an argument. If you have an actual legit argument as to why Xbox deserves to be on the top 10 game companies ever, then leave a comment down below and call me a dumbass, but I think you guys lack video game history, and that's what I'm here to teach you all about for all you who don't know, okay? So, there you have it. This is the top 10 greatest video game companies of all time. Companies that made game consoles, companies that were also third-party game companies. Yes, you know, there's a couple of others that you could put here in the place of maybe some in the middle, but I think for the most part, my list is very fair. So let me know what you guys think down below. Please leave some comments. Tell me your top 10, and tell me which ones you agreed with me about, and don't just list the ones you disagree about. Tell me the ones you agree about also. Please leave me some positive comments and negative. Don't just flood me with hate comments. Let me know what you guys really think, okay? You can say whatever you want, I don't care. Just let's communicate. Let's be gamers. Let's be fans of video games. Let's have fun. We can disagree, it's fine. You know, there's been a lot of video game history, so there's a lot to discuss here. Let me know what you guys think, right? My name is SuperPat98. Please hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my uploads. That's very important, especially with how horrible the algorithm is these days. In 2026, geez. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing month, and I'll see you all again next time.